This training video is on inbound work orders. What inbound work orders are work orders that you create to validate the quantity expected versus the quantity received. So you can create a work order and say, I'm expected to receive this much product, and then when you receive the product, you scan the product against the work order, and then you check to see if what you received actually matches what you're expected to receive. It's validation. So the way to do that is you go into the customer, because everything's customer specific. Go into the customer, go into the work order tab, and just like everything in Windfall, you have to hit the white page to add new. And then first off, you want to go to the right and where it says outbound, you want to browse and select inbound work order. Click OK, and then it's yellow, so you save. Unlike the outbound work order, there's no priority to really set. You can say who created it. If you have an inbound bill of lading number, you can type that in here. The warehouse code is required, and then a job number, or if you want to assign an employee to it, you can as well. So it's yellow, so you save. Now you go to line items, and this is where you're going to add line items. You cannot create a blank work order and hand it to the warehouse. So you can't just select, hit add new, have a new work order, select inbound, and hit print work order, and go out to the warehouse. You have to have at least one line item on the work order. They cannot be blank work orders for inbound. So what you need to do is you go to line items, hit add line item, and you have three options to select from on an inbound work order line item. 1 is tag number, 2 is article number, and 3 is generic. You cannot have what we call mixed batches on an inbound work order, which means you can't have some line items with tags, some line items with articles, or some line items with generic. They either have to be all tags, all articles, or all generic for the line item. And remember, this is an inbound work order, so this is what you're expected to receive. So for example, on the first scenario, if you select tag number, you have to know, if you want to use the tag number option, you have to know what tag numbers you're going to receive prior to receiving them to use that option. Article numbers and generic are more frequently used because articles have to be created prior to receiving product. So you know in some cases and in some scenarios what articles you're expected to receive. Such for in a hotel project, if your customer, say it was Marriott Hotels, sent you a list of an Excel sheet with all the part numbers of the pieces, such as the mattresses and the lamps and the paintings and so on and so forth, you can make article numbers prior and then say, have your customer send you a purchase order prior to receiving it to see what you're expected. So in this case scenario, you could select article number, hit the browse button, and select from the list of what articles you're expected to receive. So you pick an article, click OK, and then you pick how many you're expected to receive of that article. You click OK, and then this is also very important in this next step. You must click Save Line Items. If you do not click Save Line Items and go to another tab, that line item will disappear. So we have 12 of that specific article. If we want to add more of that article, we can. So we just go back to Add Line Item, select article again. Remember, we can't have mixed batches, so we can't select tag or generic on this work order, only articles, because that's what we started with. So we browse again and we select another article, okay, and say we're going to receive 10 of these or 100 of these, and click OK, save line item. And you just continually do that piece by piece until you have all the line items that you need on the work order to receive. So once you're finished with that, you can go to report fields, which is irrelevant because you don't know any of the data yet except for the article data, which is article number, category, type, and description. That's all that's going to show on the work order. Requested by, that's used on outbound work orders. Delivered to, used on outbound work orders because you're not delivering it, you're receiving it. This is an inbound work order. Service codes, and comments and instructions. Now you can utilize the comments and instructions to say anything you like. 2 trucks expected, for example. So it's yellow, so we save. Then we go back to details, and hit print work order. Now we see it's very similar to the outbound. It says the customer name, the warehouse work order is the header, who it was taken by, date and time, except for this portion, the delivery portion is not populated because this is an inbound. You'll also notice that it says inbound work order on the work order with a number underneath. Then it says line item 1, quantity requested is 12, and then what article? This article. There is no location, obviously, because it's not in the warehouse yet. This is what we're just expected to receive. And then the second line item is 100 that we're expected to receive. So once you've created your inbound work order, you can then hand it off to whichever warehouse person you like. And then they go on the scanner. They log into the scanner. They do select activity. Inventory in, because it's an inbound work order. Next. For which customer, they select the customer, and they can have this work order on a piece of paper once they print it in front of them so they can refer to the work order itself, the order, and now it's prompting me for the work order number. So the warehouse person scans the work order number from here, which is 13WO3. Next. Now they scan in. Now they receive it. They can either, one scenario is put a tag and select the article of WSQF, or they can skip the tag portion and just do quantity count. Remember, you have to have a tag in a location, an article in a location, or a tag and an article and a location. So quantity we are receiving is 12. As you can see on the work order that we're expected to receive 12. We hit next. Of what article? Looks like WSO, so you can type up here if you like. Any exceptions? Now remember, if you put exceptions, that refers to the entire quantity of 12. PO number, if you want to assign a PO that it came in on. What room number it's going on to. Just remember, since it's an in, the only difference between this in and the original in that we did before in the scanner inventory in process is this one. The only difference is we have an inbound work order. So it's the same prompts, same steps as a regular in, but this one has a work order number tied to it. Then we can take a picture if we like. And then we scan our location that this piece is going to. Next. Then we do our next piece. It's a CH200. I hit quantity count. How many? 100. Next. Of what article? CH200. Exceptions we're going to skip. It remembers my PO. I can either continue to use this PO, which I assume would be the same PO number that it came in on, and if it's the same work order. Maybe it's going in room 600, floor 4. I can select an existing image this time. Say I already brought some of these items in. Next, and scan my location. Now I have 2 line items on the work order to expect to have in, and my count on the scanner is 2. Once again, I can also check last scans to view what I scanned in. And if I'm satisfied with what I have, I can go to main menu, data transfer, start. There are 6 images. Do you want to delete these images? Yes or no? Remember, if you want to save the images, you want to make sure you do not delete them. And we know a data transfer is complete once it goes back to the login screen. So we can close this work order, hit refresh, and that work order has now completed, processed, because we scanned in the correct quantities and the correct articles. If we had scanned in an incorrect article or whatnot, it would have ended up in the transaction maintenance and we would have had to modify it from there. So another way to create an inbound work order, like I said before, is using white page to add new. We select inbound, save, line items, add line item. It's just important to remember, if you're going to use tag number, they all have to be tag number line items. If you're going to use article number, they all have to use article number line items. And then generic. Generic's for just if you want a count. So for example, say you know that you're going to receive 100 inventory pieces into the warehouse. You don't know what's coming. You just know you need to make sure that you receive 100. So that in that scenario, you would use the generic option and just select generic and put in 100. Okay, save line item. That way you don't know what it is or anything about it. You just know that you're expected to receive 100. So that way you can validate what you received against what you were expected to receive. So then you just would hit print work order, print it out, hand it to the warehouse, and then they have it for when they receive the product. So that is how you create inbound work orders.